Chapter 2. The sun was now at its highest, light glistening through branches of birch and oak. Unlike the usual bustle and chatter of the forest, however, there was an eerie, unspoken tension. The wolves, though returning to their daily routines, walked with the heavy weight of burden. Typical morning banter was lost to the bitter silence that followed the quaking of a nervous mind. Their restless nature had begun to bother Illicit, who was finally awake and eager to stretch his paws.
Everyone is really on edge. I wish there was a way to calm their nerves.
Their cowardice is really making my hair stand on end. How can anybody expect to rest with their obvious fearfulness?
That isn't very nice, Illicit. You can't blame them for being afraid. Our pack hasn't known a threat that caused such widespread chaos.
Illicit merely let out a sigh. Even though he wouldn't admit it, even he could sense something was unsettling. His intuition urged him to take his concern with more consideration, though he demanded his nerves to calm themselves.
Well, I'm going for a walk. I can't stand to be around all this tension.
He had decided on leaving the grounds, something he often did when he had wanted to get away from his father's nagging or Gallon's excessive complaints. Lovelorn followed just behind him, something he had never discouraged. If anything, her presence put him more at ease and provided him a sense of comfort he had not often known. Before they could clear even a quarter-mile of distance, however, a pair of emerald eyes peered from the nearby shrubbery. There was a light rattle of leaves, and the lightest snap of a twig breaking was like the initial roar of thunder before a storm. Illicit did not bother turning to the source, his nose already aware of who lurked in the bushes. With the slightest roll of his eyes and an annoyed sigh, he stopped.
What is it, Bandit?
Realizing he had been caught, Bandit slowly made himself known. He looked worried, head dipped submissively as he approached.
You knew I was there?
Oh, believe me, with how loud you were being, the whole forest probably knows it.
Oh.
Bandit said disappointedly, ashamed that he had not managed to improve his stealth.
Why are you sneaking around anyway? It's annoying.
Yeah, well, I was actually out looking for Gallant.
He's missing?
Lovelorn asked, worry etched in her startled expression.
Not exactly. Al Loki said he wanted to be left alone, but
You started worrying over him like a mother hen.
Illicit interrupted, his annoyance only growing at having to talk about his sibling. Bandit grew anxious at Illicit's response, suddenly regretting his decision to speak up.
It's just, it really isn't like him to go off on his own, especially when the pack is so uneasy.
Where's Father?
He's with Mom. It's making everyone all the more tense.
He's probably just off sulking because of the lecture we got from the old man this morning. Give him time, he'll come back.
Illicit replied, his tone revealing not even the subtle hint of concern.
Still, it isn't like Gallant to be away in a crisis. Maybe we should look for him.
Not happening.
Illicit replied bluntly, to which Lovelorn merely sighed.
He's our brother, Illicit. We should make sure he's okay.
I'm with Love. I'm worried too.
When Illicit did not say anything more, Lovelorn looked more firmly at him.
If you won't help, then I'm going with Bandit to look for him.
Illicit turned his attention sharply towards her, eyes briefly narrowing with a flicker of anger and betrayal.
You!
He stopped himself, letting out a frustrated breath before turning away from the duo.
Fine, I don't have time for this.
Illicit took to moving onwards, refusing to look back at the siblings he had just abandoned. Lovelorn felt the immediate rush of sorrow from Illicit's response, though she knew that trying to change his mind would waste too much time.
All right, Bandit. Where's the last place Hallecky said she saw him?
Bandit led her to the shoreline, pacing along the water's edge with nervous anticipation. It didn't take long for Lovelorn to catch his scent, lingering on the dirt he had been laying upon just prior. Bandit followed closely behind, mimicking his sister's actions and pressing his nose to the ground. She followed his trail for a few miles before something caught her attention. She stopped abruptly in her tracks now, eyes widening out over the distance. Bandit, caught by surprise from her abrupt halt, hit his cranium against her hindquarters, a light escaping his muzzle.
Love? Why'd you stop?
Something's wrong. Can't you smell it? Unfamiliar scents are mixing with Gallant's now.
Bandit's eyes widened, panic ensuing in his racing heart.
Bandit, go get the others.
But Love,
Bandit, go.
Lovelorn demanded. Bandit faltered beneath her sharp gaze, leaving against his better judgment back towards the den. Lovelorn ran with what little strength her frame possessed, panting with each long stride. Something was wrong, she could sense it, and the fear for her twin quickly enveloped her. Lovelorn's expression turned grim to the realization that her lunch had been right. Just ahead in the clearing by Gallant, surrounded by 4 unfamiliar wolves, they circled him like vultures on feeble prey, and the snarls that erupted from their muzzles were made with bitter contempt.
Gallant!
Lovelorn yelled in desperation, the others quickly turning towards her. She stopped several feet away, hair standing on end at the side of her injured twin. Blood seeped from open cuts along his frame, and his beautiful pelt was now covered in dirt and loose fur.
Love, what are you doing?
Gallant growled through the pain of his wounds.
Well, well, who do we have here?
A large black wolf spoke up, his yellow eyes narrowing into fine slits. 2 brown wolves at either side of him snickered menacingly, the gray canine to his right eyeing her with what appeared to be ravenous hunger.
Leave him alone!
Love, get out of here!
Gallant's eyes urged her to leave, desperate in their attempt.
You must have a death wish, sweetheart.
His teeth bared, his evil grin an indication of his intent.
I don't want to fight you. Just leave my brother alone.
Aw, Princess here doesn't want to fight.
The smaller brown wolf chimed in mockingly. The others chuckled in unison.
I'm not going to say it again. Leave him alone.
We'll see how much fight is left in you when I rip that pretty face of yours apart.
The growl that left the gray one's muzzle was made with ferocity, and they began to approach her with heavy steps.
Don't!
Gallant's voice bellowed with anger unrivaled by any. His legs trembled beneath him as he struggled to rise to his paws. But his will to stand brought him upright, and he forced his wounded limbs to steady themselves.
Don't touch her.
He growled with an intensity equaled only by the wild fire that stirred in the glaze of his eyes. Lovelorn looked astonishingly at him, amazed by both his valiance and his resilience.
Ugh, you just don't know when to quit, do you?
The black wolf yelled, whipping himself around and lunging in Gallant's direction. He was joined by the 2 other brown wolves, ganging up on the male with the power of numbers. The gray canine, however, kept his sights fixed on Lovelorn. His ears fell back towards his cranium with aggressive intent. There was an ominous grin that seemed to play beneath the growls, and had Lovelorn not been so focused on getting to her brother, it would have made her uncomfortable.
Lovelorn!
She could hear Gallant's voice through the chaos, replaced once again by the snarls of battle. She lowered her head, ears erect, the hair on her back standing on end, and in one swift lunge the gray canine was before her. His claws were like blades sinking into the flesh of her neck. Though just before the sharp of his fangs could pierce her, she had thrust herself back. Before enemy could once again move in for an attack, she threw herself forward, her teeth just nicking the nape of his neck before he reared to the side. Something in his eyes shifted in this moment, and he paused, licking the black of his muzzle with his coal-stained tongue.
Oh, you're gonna pay for that.
Your threats don't frighten me.
You're gonna see just how much pain bravery will cost you.
Once again he leaped forward, this time his muzzle making contact with the side of her neck. A sharp, painful screech escaped Lovelorn's lips, and he tightened his grip.
Love!
Gallant shouted at hearing her cry, attempting to get to her. He was immediately confronted by the 3 other wolves, however, who now stood before him as a barrier. Gallant had now lost his composure, his panic now quickly turning to anger.
Get the hell out of my way.
He snarled, though the others looked menacingly at him.
You threaten us in your condition? You have some nerve.
One of the brown wolves spoke, their sinister nature revealed by their grins.
Last chance. Move, or I will make you move.
Tough words for someone already half dead. But if you still got that much bark left in you, come on, show us what you've got.
Gallant's legs now trembled, though not from fear, but rather from his own rage. Something was quickly consuming him, and he was losing all sense of himself. He pushed off of his hind legs with force, and met the black wolf that stood just in front of him, blocking his path. Everything had become a blur. The sounds of his attackers, the yelps that came from Lovelorn, even the throbs and pulsing he could feel among his body. It seemed so distant to him now. He did not even notice when one of the brown wolves had fallen limp at his paws before he lunged for the other. Each action had been entirely instinctual, his sense now lost to his own impulses. He had not even been aware of how much time had been passing, nor even of the growls that now came charging in from the distance. Elias and a few of the others had finally arrived, chasing the remaining 2 wolves off the territory. Several of the pack members continued their chase, determined to eliminate the chance of further threat. Elias immediately approached his son, the worry clear in his expression. Gallant still held the throat of the black wolf in his muzzle, thrashing his head in violent motions despite the lack of resistance from his captive.
Gallant?
Elias spoke, his voice low and calm as to not cause any further alarm. When Gallant seemed unable to grasp his father's presence, however, Elias took another hard step forward.
Gallant.
His voice was firmer, more authoritative, and it was then that there seemed to be a light flicker of recognition in Gallant's eyes. In his last attempt to shake Gallant from his state, Elias extended a paw, placing it on his son's shoulder.
Gallant, everything is okay now.
There was a quick snarl that left Gallant's muzzle, though at his father's words he quickly came to. The glaze that once coated his eyes had completely dissipated, and a thud could be heard as the corpse in his muzzle hit the ground. The taste of iron filled his mouth, fresh blood seeping from his canines. He turned to his father, confused.
Father?
Yes, son. I'm here.
He looked to the wolf that now lay limp at his feet, pools of blood staining his gray-tipped paws. There was a silence that followed as Gallant had tried to grasp the events that had just unfolded. Before Elias could comfort his son, however, Bandit could be heard across the clearing.
Dad, it's Love!
Both males quickly snapped their heads in that direction. Lovelorn had collapsed, giving way to her wounds and exhaustion. Her breathing had become hard and unstable. Gallant was the first to reach her side, every fiber of his being revealing the guilt and terror he felt for her.
Love, open your eyes.
Bennett let out a soft whimper when only silence followed, and Gallant stooped his muzzle beneath her neck.
Son, you are too injured to carry her back. Let us take care of it.
But Gallant would not listen to reason. He gently maneuvered himself beneath the weight of his twin, carefully placing her on his back.
Hallock is back with Mom. Hurry, Gallant!
Bandit ushered, knowing there would be no reasoning with him. Gallant moved as quickly as his paws would carry him over the terrain. His muscles ached, his wounds urged him to stop, but there would be no giving in to his body's demands. Seconds felt like hours as he neared, finding only the slightest relief when seeing Hallecky outside one of the healer's dens. Her face was suddenly riddled with shock as Gallant approached.
Gallant, what happened?
Loki, please, do something.
She could see his desperation, and it pained her to see him in such a state.
Of course, put her inside.
Gallant had left Lovelorn inside the den, hesitant to leave upon Hallecky's request that she be given space to work her healings. Hallecky had urged for him to rest, persistent in her pleas at seeing his injured state, but Gallant refused to leave the front of the den. It didn't take long for the others to arrive. Quickly surrounding the den with exhausted panting, even Elias appeared to be slightly winded, his age catching up with him. He went immediately where Hallecky had been working, disappearing behind the mouth of the entrance for several minutes while the others were left to merely wait for his return. When he did emerge from within, Bandit was the first to run to his side.
How is she?
He asked abruptly, ears pinned to his skull.
The wounds are not fatal, and after some rest she should be fine.
A wave of relief washed over the pack, and it was clear that everyone but Gallant had taken the news with such ease.
Son, you should rest yourself now. You need time to heal.
I'm fine.
Gallant answered blankly, his eyes fixed on the cave which housed his injured sibling.
You aren't fine. In more than your physical injuries, I can sense your emotional turmoil.
I said I'm fine.
You surely aren't to blame for this. If not for you, she likely would have been worse than she is.
You don't know that. You don't even know what happened. I just leave it be. I want to be left alone.
I will leave you to your thoughts then. But remember, my son, there are few who are as noble and as brave as you. Do not let guilt consume you.
When Gallant remained quiet, Elias continued.
I will be with your mother. She must be worried sick. Please alert me with any further news of her recovery.
He, along with the other wolves, departed now, taking comfort from the fact that Hallecky had saved Lovelorn's life. Gallant, on the other hand, had not taken the news so lightly. He remained near the den, and not just due to the lack of strength that now took hold of his limbs. The blood of his wounds were beginning to clot beneath his pelt, though he had not been concerned with his own lacerations. He inwardly praised Hallecky and her knowledge of the human world. It was this that had helped save his sister, same as it did for his mother not long ago. Here had been another ready to mend his mistakes. Purer in heart had she been than him. What could he possibly do for his twin now, other than be near to her when she needed him? So here he remained, unmoving. He could not deny that the fault lay with him. That is, until a familiar and unwanted presence had made itself known.
What the hell happened?